I'm happy they had a conversation about that and she understood to some extent, you know, Kenya anyway, that it was rude what she did. However, it was like, girl, if that was me, ooh, you was getting cussed out. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video. So today I am going to be talking about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, their most recent season that they just finished up with. I was waiting on them to drop their part, I think it was the third part to the reunion, season 14 now. That's the season I'm talking about. And there's a lot to discuss here. I'm going to be doing my makeup in this video, so it's going to be kind of like a get ready with me. I tend to watch a lot more like reality TV stuff on Netflix, Bravo, like all that type of stuff. So if that is your forte, definitely hit that subscribe button because there's definitely going to be more where this came from. Now, this is going to be the first time I'm talking about the Real Housewives over on this channel. I really felt the need to do it mainly because of this interesting season, and also because I think Real Housewives of Potomac is going to be putting out a new season shortly, October sometime. So I'm probably going to be talking about that as well. So tune in. Today is probably going to be a little bit of a rant. Right now, as you guys can see, you know, the color, there's color in my head. Usually it's a dark brown. There is now wax color in my hair. So I'm actually trying out the As I Am, what is this again? Curl color. Looks like this. So far it looks good, but I haven't taken the twist down yet. It's been up in one for the past 2 days. So yeah, I'll probably have to stop this because I know I need to take it out of the one that I have it in because it's still kind of damp. So just give me 1 second. So I am back now. I had to get the hair tie out of my hair so that I could let my hair kind of dry in the middle where my crown is. I have my laptop off to the side here because I need to remember who all was in the cast because I don't want to forget anybody. Of course, we have Candy, aka Candy Burris, and you have Kenya More Hair Care. Oh my god, that was so funny. Drew Sidora, Sheree Whitfield. Sheree came back. And then Marlo Hampton, she came in. She, you know, was kind of friends with more so Nene than anyone else that I remember throughout the seasons. But ever since Real Housewives of Atlanta started, I remember her being kind of attached to Nene. So y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember her being Nene's friend first. She finally got promoted to a Real Housewife instead of just a friend of a Real Housewife, which, you know, I'm gonna get into my feelings about that upgrade, but until then, we're just gonna move on. We have Sonia, aka Sonia Richards Ross. So, I mean, none of these women are housewives. I just want to say that because I know the name of it. Like, of course, there have been many people that would be like, why do you even call this show Real Housewives when there's no Real Housewives on the show? None of these women are housewives, really. Okay, I think only 3 of them are even married, and that's Candy, Drew, and Sonia. At one point, I know Sheree was married, but I think when she first got onto the show, she was already going through a divorce. So I don't know. Correct me again if I'm wrong. The timeline might be kind of off. But first things first, I'm probably going to talk about the new people, okay? Or in this case with Sheree, she's coming back. And then of course Marlo, she's been upgraded to a a housewife. Some details about what I am using. This is my, geez, what's the company again? Maybelline Fit Me. This is their dewy and smooth, normal to dry Fit Me foundation. And it says sunscreen, broad spectrum, SPF 18 with vitamin E. This is in the shade 230. Originally in my other video, I don't know if you guys caught that, but I did a review of this already, but it was with their 210 shade. So that definitely didn't work, as you guys probably would have seen in that video. If you haven't watched it, definitely check it out if it's of interest to you. But yeah, that was definitely not my shade. This one was more my shade. I think I have more of a warmer undertone. Even though I'm light skinned, I definitely don't really have like a cool undertone if you're, you know, looking at me at the camera. So I needed something a little bit more on the orangier, reddish side, and then also something a lot darker than 210. So with all that being said, let's really get into it. Like I was saying, I was going to share my feelings about Marlo. I don't really know why they kind of upgraded her to housewife. I'm just going to be honest. It wasn't really necessary. I feel like she could have just been, again, for another season, just a friend of a friend on the show, you know? I don't really feel like making her a housewife was really necessary. However, I do understand to some extent probably why they did it, considering that Nene wasn't on this season again. Understandably so, because I feel like her time there, I feel, had just run its course. And then also this season, you see that Cynthia didn't come back, and also Portia, because Portia decided to do her own show. I think it was Portia Family Matters or something like that, which I was like, I mean, I watched the whole season of it, but it was trash. I'm just gonna be honest. The whole time it was just like Portia basically trying to explain herself as to basically why she was rushing into this engagement with, is it Simon? Jeez, I done forgot her fiance's name. I think it's Simon, but either way, the entire time she was just trying to explain herself to her family members and to her ex, and her ex, you know, they was just going back and forth because, of course, you know, they share a child, Pilar, and they're trying to figure out how to co-parent and all this. And it's just like, it was garbage to me. It's like Real Housewives, don't get me wrong, could be kind of catty as well. But for some reason, that show, it just felt like just reality TV garbage to me. I love Portia, and I felt like Portia was awesome on Real Housewives of Atlanta. But in terms of her having her own show, it was just a no for me, which I kind of had a feeling it was going to be like that. Even though I like certain personalities within a group, it's like when they're off to themselves, they don't have the same dynamic, if that makes sense. I still love Portia. I just hated the show. It was not a good look to me. It was not a good look at all. I liked seeing her family, you know, because I didn't really get to see much of her because, of course, with Real Housewives, they kind of had to go back and forth between all of the ladies' lives. So the fact that we get to see more about Portia by herself, you know, that was cool, but it wasn't a good look. It just seemed like she had a really dysfunctional family, and not in a funny way. It just was not entertaining to me. It just felt like a pile of sugar honey iced tea. I'm just gonna be honest. With Portia leaving, Nene not being there still, and then also Cynthia, I feel like Cynthia didn't really bring much to the table. I honestly didn't really notice that she left with this season, that she wasn't there. I didn't really notice. If she never comes back, I'll be okay. But with Nene, I actually miss her. As toxic as she could be, I like her. She brings something to the table. Now, when it comes to Marlo, she did shake it up a bit. I felt like it needed that because everybody else, even though I love Candy, I love Kenya. Kenya could be so much at times to deal with on the show. Drew, I'm not gonna lie, if she doesn't come back for next season, I'll be okay as well, because she gets on my last nerves. I'm gonna get into that too. Sheree, you know, she came back with a little bit of her like spice that she brought within the last couple of seasons before she left. So that was nice seeing her face as well. When it came to Marlo though, I don't know. I felt like she was just more so what people would need as like, you know, a catalyst in a way, like to stir things up and stir the pot, to say some outlandish stuff to just drive you insane, you know? So I felt like she didn't really need to be a housewife, but I understood why they made her a housewife. In terms of Sonia though, I was excited to see a new face. I know last season, I think they had LaToya. You know, if you guys watched LaToya Forever on YouTube, I don't even know if she posts like that. I unsubscribed from her a long time ago. Ever since I started noticing that she was running through friends like crazy, I was like, yeah, I'm good on you, sis. Like, you seem like you're the problem. But either way, I got to see firsthand the toxicity that I thought LaToya possessed when she was on the show, in all honesty. And I definitely got to confirm my feelings towards her. I did not like her on that show last season. I felt like she was just doing the most. Now, the last episode, I'm not gonna lie, with Drew and her, it just, Drew was doing too much. I'm not even gonna lie. Y'all remember when she was basically accusing, I think, LaToya of sleeping with the pastor? Well, I can't remember what was going on, but either way, she was basically accusing LaToya of sleeping with a pastor that I think Drew knew or something like that. But it had no relevance to the conversation. It was like such terrible timing and just so random that she did that. It was just like, okay, sis. On my brows, I'm using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade. This is in dark brown. I need a new one, to be honest. I've been using this pot for the last God knows how long. It hasn't caused me to break out, so whatever. I do need to get a new one though, but at least by the end of this year or next year for sure. So like I was saying, in terms of the last season, there was definitely a lot going on, and Drew did not make friends. I'm honestly surprised that she even made friends this season, seemingly. Because I remember the reunion for the end of last season, her and Kenya were going back and forth. It was over some BS if you ask me. But most of their spats are BS. Some of them are very entertaining. I'm surprised she made connections. She came in with Sonia. With Sonia, she was a breath of fresh air in my eyes because I was kind of tired of seeing all of them. Even though Drew is technically a new person as well, considering last season was her first season, I still feel like she was kind of just to me. I think Sonia was a breath of fresh air. Seeing her brought a new energy to the show, and of course I love the fact that Sheree came back. I don't know if y'all remember that scene from that one season when she was like, who gonna check me, boo?
You need to get your face out my face.
You need to watch yourself before you get checked.
Who gonna check me, boo?
That lives rent-free in my mind. Rent-free, okay? Anyways, this is my Fit Me, my Maybelline Fit Me concealer, and this is in the color medium. And it says 25 on there. That's the number, if you guys are curious. Just gonna use this underneath my brow. I don't really bother with on top. But like I was saying, when it comes to Sonia, I was excited to see her, but her and Drew, because Drew and her seem to be good, okay? Like they kind of brought out the best in each other for like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then that was that, because child Sonia was not liking the new Drew that she was seeing. She was like, you are a whole different person. Like, what is going on, sis? They seemed to get along for a little bit. When I say a little bit, I mean a little bit, because Drew, I feel, is all over the place. Like, I don't know if her husband gaslighting her has given her the tools to gaslight other people, but she does it well. Like, she pretends she don't know what other people be talking about. She causes chaos and problems and says things and does things, and then just hides her hand. And it's just like, girl, but you just, like, what? The entire season, and also a good portion of the last season before this one. She just does things that it's just kind of like, girl, like, were you not present mentally when you were doing and saying these things? Because I don't understand how you are confused. So Candy in this season had a little bit of a spat with, I think it was Sheree, but not really as much. But it was Sheree and Marlo who kind of had like a tiff with her a little bit. And their relationships or dynamics just kind of changed a little bit, because Marlo, she was taking care of her sister's kids. So while her sister, I think, is in prison, she's incapacitated, can't deal with her kids. So Marlo has to be the person that takes her kids on. This season, that is all Marlo could talk about, because obviously you could tell it was stressing her out. She wasn't used to being like a guardian or parent. So this is kind of like the first time for her. And understandably so, she just was like having a hard time, you know? To put some of that concealer on my eyelid to serve as a base real quick. You could tell she was having a tough time, but I felt like she was just taking it out on everybody else this season, and Candy was one of them. And it was just kind of like, girl, everybody has things going on in their life. We can understand that you have a lot of stress. You know, she has that issue still with her mother. She doesn't have the best relationship with her mom, considering that she had to be, you know, sent through the foster care system. And I understood that, but it was like, Marlo, you can't keep blaming other people for your toxic traits. You have to take some responsibility at some point, you know what I'm saying? Candy, you know, she's trying to figure out like, what the heck is going on with you? Like, I thought we were good. And I think they were at a spa on one episode, and you could clearly tell she is genuinely confused as to where the energy is coming from when Marlo just starts kind of coming after her, and she's just like, yeah, you haven't been the best friend to me. I feel as though you don't check on me like that. Yada yada, right? And it's just like, did you just come into this show hoping to ruin all relationships that you have with any of the ladies. Like, I felt like that was her goal this season. Even though this was her first season, like, one of the producers was like, yeah, come here 1 second. You're gonna have to be the one that shakes things up around here. That's kind of when Sheree kind of came in as well. Her and Marlo would have conversations behind Candy's back about her not being a good friend or a good person, her being a 304. Hopefully y'all know what a 304 is because I can't say the other word. But anyways, with all that being said, right, I just didn't like that energy. I felt like if you're gonna say something, say it with your chest and to someone's face. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about that. I'm just going for a neutral look today. I'm using my Morphe palette, which I also need to get rid of, but this is what that looks like. You see a bunch of tape and stuff on it, fingerprints. It's dirty as hell. I mean, yeah, it's ratchet. It's working for right now, so until I get new makeup, this is what it is. From there on, Candy just felt like they were just kind of dogpiling on her a bit. Like, y'all don't check on her. Last time I checked, a phone works both ways. I honestly hate when that happens. This is like people just come after you and kind of dogpile on you and be like, oh, you know, you should have called me and you don't call to check on me and you're just a selfish person. And it's just like, how am I selfish, first of all, when a phone can work both ways? You can call and also pick up. For me to constantly have to be the person to call you, like, nah. I felt like that relationship was just kind of soured a bit this season, and you could kind of tell too. Moving on to Kenya. Kenya, she seemed as though she was in a much better place until Brooklyn's birthday party, when she had this tea party. Okay, it was like a tea inspired game, or basically when you share tea or what you think about other people, what you heard about other people, right? Which again is just kind of like, Kenya, you just starting some ish, man. But of course you gotta love her for it because she's always gonna do that. It's Kenya. But it was just kind of like, miss, that is the wrong time. But either way, she invited all the ladies to Brooklyn's party, which I don't think it was an appropriate game to play at a kid's party. I just want to say that. It was just kind of like, sis, you know this is not kid approved or kid friendly. Come on now. Somehow there was some talk about Drew Sidora's husband being gay. And this had actually come from Drew's assistant. And according to the assistant, also he said to Drew that Sheree hadn't paid him because apparently he was at one point, according to him, Sheree's assistant as well. So I don't know about that. That was never confirmed to be true. And then obviously there was the reunion. Guy kind of flip-flopped when Sheree called him and he was just like, yeah, I don't remember. It's cloudy now. And I'm just like, wow, y'all, you clearly just trying to start some ish. Clearly. I suck at trying to put on eyeshadow and talk because I'm just like, does this color look good? Like, I don't know. I think that was Fatum. This was the friend of Sheree who was pretty much saying that she heard that Drew's husband was gay. Even though her assistant was the one that said it, she came after Fatum, and the entire season, her and Fatum had a very tumultuous relationship, which I was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of dumb and petty. Can we just move on from this? But they never moved on because Drew likes to carry things on. And it's annoying. I'm not even gonna lie. Sonia and Kenya kind of struck up a friendship. I think this is when they were in New York. And Kenya was trying to get to know Sonia. So Sonia was like, okay, let's go for a walk and all that type of stuff. They were both trying to get to know each other. And then they ended up talking about Drew. And how Sonia didn't like how she was talking to Sheree at Kenya's daughter's birthday party or something like that. And she and Kenya had a conversation about that. And I'm guessing, based on Drew's recollection, Sonia anyway, she never actually told her or pulled her to her side. She just said it in the group, and she was just kind of mad about that and saw that as, I guess, fake. And I'm just like, Drew, if anybody's fake, it's kind of you. When it comes to Drew, it's like, just shut up, sit down, you know? Today, I'm gonna be using my Maybelline New York. This is their Hyper Easy Brush Tip Liner in black, of course. It's actually been doing me pretty well. I was like, okay, drugstore liner, come through. Before that, I was using my ColourPop liquid liner, which it's been a minute, but it still has a little bit of oomph in it, you know? It's not completely done yet. But let me just do this liner real quick and then we'll continue talking about Sonia and Kenya. Now I'm just gonna be using my pencil for my waterline. So when it comes to Sonia and Kenya, right? they had such an interesting back and forth relationship, and it's really because Kenya, I think, is a really toxic person deep down, but she tries to pass it off as, oh, it's just my feelings, like I have to deal with my divorce and it's making me depressed. And it's just like, don't get me wrong, depression is a real thing, but it's just like, sis, Sonia was tapping into it, you know, when they kind of had that conversation. I think this was either at the reunion or when they were in Jamaica. I think her and her husband were filming this fitness program or something like that. And Kenya was acting like such a spoiled brat, which she always does, but it was like heightened on that vacation. And it was like, girl, I'm gonna need you to chill. There was that whole issue when she was claiming that she got left behind even though she followed the instructions, but it was like, girl, the bus was going to leave. Like, she wanted to see, I think, Sonia film or something like that. And also Sheree wanted to see it as well. They wanted to see her film, right? And she said, okay, if you want to come see me in action, like, you just got to get on the bus. But the thing is, the bus was leaving at a certain time. Marlo got on it. Everybody knew the time, but they showed up late as hell and then wanted to get mad, like have the audacity to get mad at the fact that they got left but couldn't follow simple instructions. Get there on time and get in the bus. So I don't understand what type of energy her and Sheree were on before all of that happened, right? They were trying to build a friendship, which it looked as though they were, you know? You could clearly see that when it comes to Kenya, she's used to getting a pass for her attitude. I remember when Sonia was trying to invite her to the Jamaica trip in the first place, and she was trying to explain to her like, okay, it's supposed to be a couples trip. However, we know that you don't have no one because, you know, you're still in the middle of this divorce with your husband, but you could bring somebody else. And before Sonia could even say like, oh, you could bring whoever, she just hung up. And I was like, first of all, I'm happy they had a conversation about that and she understood to some extent, you know, Kenya anyway, that it was rude, which she did. However, it was like, girl, if that was me, ooh, you was getting cussed out. The next time I saw you was getting cussed out. I'm not even joking with that one. Sonia handled that so well and so professional. I was like, ciao. Anyways, that was a whole thing. And then, of course, Kenya and Marlo fell out. I think it had begun to kind of disintegrate in terms of the friendship anyway. It kind of started to fall apart when Kenya didn't show up. She said she was sick, but her and Marlo were trying to plan a party for Sheree. And it was like, okay, if she says she's sick, like, just let her be sick, you know? And they were kind of getting on her with the fact that, oh, how do you be sick with makeup on your face, right? And it was just like, yo, on a show, sis. Like, of course she's not gonna be without makeup on a show. Ever since then, their relationship was just going downhill and fast. It was tumultuous from then on. Marlo was just pretty much saying like, oh, you fake, you fake. Kenya did not like that. All right, rightfully so, because who would like being called fake, you know what I'm saying? It was just such an interesting relationship. I am going to be putting on lashes today because I feel like the look needs it. If I'm going to go neutral, I need to do the most when it comes to everything else. Oh no, powder. So I'm gonna let that sit while I'm talking real quick. Put on my mascara. This is, again, I think Maybelline. Yeah, Maybelline Great Lash. I was just not doing well with anybody besides, I think, Sheree. Yeah, Sheree, Drew to an extent, and then also Sonia. They kind of had built a little bit of a bond. I think particularly during the vacation they were having in, is it Stone Mountain, Georgia or something like that? Marlo had a trip because she said she needed to get away. And that was right after she told her adoptive sons, her nephews basically, she told them they need to get the hell out and told her sister they're gonna be staying with her. That was an explosive trip. Kenya said some things, Marlo said some things. Kenya was a little bit more foul though with the things that she said. She started talking about the whole situation with the nephews. And I was like, girl, just leave that alone. Like, but you could clearly tell on that vacation, she didn't want to be there. You know, I don't even know why Kenya showed up. I think she just wanted to have a vacation, but she didn't want to deal with Marlo. So she was just like, I'm gonna come, but I don't feel like talking to you. On that vacation, also, Drew had some issues with Fatum, Sheree's friend, because she came on that trip as well. She was her plus one. And It was just so annoying. And then when it came to Sheree, her relationship with this ex-con, I have nothing against people who, you know, obviously did time in prison, because clearly, okay, when it comes to some people, they actually make something for themselves in terms of their life and goals after they come out of prison. They don't, you know, do things, oh geez, they don't do things to get themselves rearrested. They want to turn their life around. But I still think that it's kind of like dangerous in terms of you dating someone like that, because you don't know if they're gonna do something to get themselves in trouble again and have to go back. It's like, I just don't know if it's worth it. But that's just my thoughts. Hey, you do you, sis. But she felt in the beginning of this season that they were doing good. She was gonna meet up with him. He never showed because he was saying it was a violation of his parole or something like that. And I was like, what? If you knew that this was gonna be a violation, why didn't you tell Sheree before she decided to take a car for hours and drive up there in the first place? It just struck me as odd and as though he was just flaking on her. And it just seemed like he was using her, to be honest with you. But we're gonna move on. Also, when it came to Marlo, in the beginning of the season, I forgot to actually mention, in the beginning, she had opened up a, I don't know what to call it, but she was basically saying that it was supposed to be kind of like a closet, hopefully in the future, for like movies and stuff like that, costumes. And it was supposed to be like her high-end closet pieces that she used to wear and own, but she now has them kind of like out so people could rent it and stuff like that. So I was like, this is a cool idea, Marlo, but I don't think it's gonna do well. I'm just gonna be honest. Even though she has connections that she kept talking about throughout this entire season, because she kept talking about how Kandi doesn't have the same connections that she does. And it was just like, okay, yeah, but if we're gonna be honest, when it comes to connections, Kandi's connections in any field, it doesn't matter if it's fashion or music, like clearly she definitely has more worthwhile connections than probably you do. No offense. Why are you talking bad about Kandi? You can be connecting with her to connect with other people. You know, it's just like, why damage that bridge? Why burn that bridge? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, it kind of came to a head when I think they were in Jamaica at a dinner. And I think that night, that first night anyway, Kenya had invited a guy who looked pretty young. I think he actually was a lot younger than she was. By how much, I don't remember, but he was pretty young. And he actually ended up leaving once they started arguing. But it was just kind of like, my guy, you want a show, like, you don't gotta be that dramatic. Even if you're not having a good time, sit there and get your clout. That's what I would have done. I would have just sipped tea, not involved myself at all. I don't care. I got free food. I'm on TV. Like, you think I would care about some stupid spat? I don't know them anyway, you know? But anyways, he ended up leaving. And also when it came to, where's my lash glue? Oh yeah. When it came to that, I think that's when the spouses were there. Kandi had Todd there and Marlo started talking about him, pretty much saying similar things to what other people have been saying for years before they got married, while they've been married. I think they've been married for like 8 years now. People always made it seem as though Todd was using Kandi, that he was a bum, that he didn't have his own, you know what I mean? And it was just kind of like, you don't know this man. You don't know this man. You know, like, I don't understand. But anyways, but apparently we found out at the reunion that Kandi and Todd actually knew Marlo before she even came on the show. So that was interesting. According to Kandi and Todd, she didn't really have that much in terms of finances. But, you know, that's what they said. That's what they said. We also had, in terms of businesses, Drew. Drew was doing her Drop It with Drew, and she had, I think, Kandi, Sonia, and I can't remember who else she invited over to the house, but she was telling them about her Drop It with Drew program, which is supposed to be like a weight loss program. But a lot of her math, like in terms of the numbers, like pounds that she had lost, it wasn't adding up. She had said that she got surgery and all this stuff, and then she had like gained weight or something like that. I don't remember the exact timeline, but all I can say is it just didn't make sense. She was saying that she lost like 20 or 30 pounds in a month, and it was like, girl, How? Like, that don't even sound healthy if it really did happen, you know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be like her workout program, meal planning and stuff like that, and it's supposed to help you lose weight, you know, yada yada. But a lot of it didn't make sense. But she ended up having, I think, a Drop It With Drew event, and she invited all the girls, which is where Marlo and Kenya definitely ended up having their whole spiel. That's when they really blew up. At first, it was just kind of catty back and forths, but at that point, ever since then, I think shortly after that is when they had the whole Stone Mountain vacation, and that's when, you know, Kenya was like, yeah, I'm good on Marlo. And she stayed consistent with that. She was like, yeah, nah, I'm not messing with Marlo no more. We're good. I think I officially got one lash on. I think. You never really know with lashes sometimes. They'll just like be glued, and then the next couple minutes, just not glued. This is why I kind of want to look at getting lash extensions put in instead of constantly having to do strips, but we'll see. We'll see. I did a whole video on that. Y'all could check it out, but I'm still kind of back and forth with what I want to do, you know? Back to what I was saying. Marlo was still trying to play as though they were friends, and it was just like, girl, you can't come for people and expect them to still be your friend. That's not how that works. She was going through a lot this season, but however, like I said, I do feel like she was just putting too much off on other people. It's just like everybody has things to deal with. It's different things, but everybody has stress. Have you even called Candy and all the rest of these people, Sheree, you know, to check on them? You know what's going on in their life? I just feel like that's just so selfish. If it's very one-sided, I could understand if Marlo was always the friend that would call Andy and Kenya and all the rest of them to check on them. But from what I was seeing, it just seemed like it was just her constantly bombarding them about not calling her. I'm using my Milani Make It Last Original. This is the Natural Finish Setting Spray. Spray a couple sprigs, you know. Let that sit for a second, and then I gotta take these twists out. But before I do that, really quickly, I wanna finish off what I was saying, and then I'll come back with my finished look. But I started talking about Marlo, and then of course her relationship with Kenya. That was disintegrated. Her relationship with Candy, that went to hell. Who did I not get to really talk on like that? I think I pretty much talked about everybody. Oh, Drew. Drew, I found her marriage from last season. At least I think it was last season. For your husband to disappear and go to Tampa and then still not tell you what the hell he went to Tampa for, no. You can clearly see they're still having a lot of issues, and that's one of those issues. The fact that he still won't tell her where he went. The fact that you, number one, disappeared to go to a whole other state. Like, what? I'm gonna need you to tell me what the hell you went to Tampa for, sir. No, we cannot move past that. God bless her soul, because I would have been like, I'm gonna need you to move out, or I'm gonna be moving out with the kids, because I'm gonna need to know where the hell you went to do what with who. Okay, we're not gonna just go past that like that didn't happen. Moving on from that, they're going through marriage counseling throughout all these episodes, and you could clearly tell, obviously, he gaslights the hell out of her, pretends like he don't know what the hell she talking about, nothing happened, none of what you're saying that we have issues with even occurred. And then he writes a book about step-parenting and doesn't even run it by his wife first when it's about his relationship with her child. It was wild to me. I was like, I don't understand. They got a lot of stuff they need to work through, clearly. Oh, I forgot to put some highlighter on my cheekbones. So moving on to Sonia, she also had a little bit of issues. Her man, her kid, her son, and also her extended family, like her mom and dad and sister, they were all living in this one house together, and they were also renovating it, I think, or something like that. And I'm just like, girl, you got patience, because I don't love my family like that. To have them be, you know, living up under me, I was like, nah, it's okay. Like, my family knows me. Like, I need my space. Yeah, but she got patience. And then also, they were trying to work on their own issues because, you know, her husband, he wanted a child. And she was just like, nah, you weren't giving me the support I needed when we had our first child. So we need to work through that first before I even consider. But she ended up, I think, at the end of the season, I want to try, because I think she took her IUD out and now they're trying for another child. So whenever that happens, I guess. And it was just very interesting watching that. And also during the reunion, I found it interesting that it came up that Drew and her had a conversation about the whole having a child thing, and Drew was basically saying like, okay, you kind of have to have a child to kind of appease your husband in a way. Like, in short, that's what she said. And of course, a lot of the ladies naturally had issues with that. But me personally, I think that if you work through your issues and you guys are married, of course you have to come to an agreement between the both of you. It can't just be one-sided, like this is what your husband wants, so do whatever your husband wants. It's still your body. However, I do think that you should at least consider what he wants, and then you guys can come to an agreement. And you know, so Drew wasn't entirely wrong. I feel like in some ways you should consider, like, if he wants another kid, consider having another kid. You don't have to, but you should at least consider it, you know? So that's just kind of how I felt about that advice, but I can kind of understand why the other girls and also Sonia herself, she had an issue with that advice. Now, in terms of the reunion, a lot of things came out. It was a 3-parter, so it was really long, but I think I kind of already said some of the things that kind of came up. Of course, we have Candy, Marlo, Kenya. They kind of all have a strained relationship. Candy and Kenya have a strained relationship with Marlo. Marlo, I think, kind of still wants to be friends with both Candy and Kenya, but Candy seems to be the only person that is kind of okay with saying, you know, like, okay, we could kind of move on. I think it was the KFC. The KFC that Marlo had at the airport in Jamaica, that kind of like swooned her and was just kind of like, okay, I kind of forgive you. But Kenya was good. That entire reunion, all 3 parts, you could tell Kenya was on another level, somewhere else, not even trying to entertain Marlo. Marlo, again, was giving her sad story about she was going through so much and yada yada. And it was just kind of like, okay, sis, I get it. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't understand how you could still be toxic and expect people to want to be around you. You know what I'm saying? Either way, they had ended up bringing in the husbands, I think, at one point. And during the Jamaica vacation, I forgot to mention this, even though Kenya and Sonia were kind of going back and forth with the whole situation, her not being able to go to the event, yada yada, even though there were clear instructions as to if you wanted to go, you have to be here at a certain time, whatever. We're just gonna move past that, right? Sonia, I feel like she was the best host. Like, Kenya was probably the worst possible host. If you guys remember that South Carolina trip in that other season, terrible. Her guests starving. Her eating crab cakes by the pool. Like, has no regrets, none. To wrap up my thought on that though, when it came to that whole situation, when they were having dinner and Kenya kind of came for Sonia a little bit, Sonia's husband wasn't feeling that. He just felt like Sheree and Kenya were just kind of dogpiling her a little bit. And I felt like, again, Kenya was being a spoiled brat about the whole situation. And it's not her job as the host to call you. If she says that you have an option to do this thing, and if you want to do this thing, be here, this specific location in the bus at this particular time, or else the bus is going to leave without you, but you were late, how is that her fault? How is that Sonia's fault? At the time, however, Sonia's husband didn't like that, and he stood up and he looks at, I think, both Kenya and Sheree, and he's just like, don't F with my wife. But I think it was more so directed to Kenya, because Sheree didn't really care as much as Kenya did. Kenya really took that super personal, and it was like, girl, get over yourself. I was going to say the same thing if I personally was there. Like, please shut up. Stop. So I feel personally, when it came to what he did, I back it, even though it probably would have made obviously any woman feel a ways, because, you know, she doesn't have a guy there. She's alone by herself. I mean, again, that was her choice. She came by herself. She had her cousin, I think, but her cousin ended up flaking on her. So, I mean, that's kind of your decision to come there alone. At the same time, I feel like she's just so used to getting away with stuff and saying certain things to ladies that when a man steps up and says, you need to shush, be quiet, it's like all of a sudden aggressive. And she even said that to Sheree when they were like kind of off by themselves. Kenya, don't get me wrong, she could read like nobody's business, okay? Her clapbacks are infamous. However, I do think that she gets away with a lot of garbage, and it annoys me. So I was happy that someone stood up to her in the show. I wish it was one of the ladies, but I'm happy that it was someone, okay, even though it was a guy. But that's pretty much all that I have to say about that season. I'm gonna try and unravel this hair off camera. You guys could take a look at that in my other video. Oh, also I forgot to mention the biggest thing at the end that happened. Sheree finally had her She by Sheree fashion show, okay? You know, she was clowned for years about that not happening, and it finally happened. However, shortly after that episode aired, people started coming out saying that they were looking at some of the clothes on her website and they could actually find the exact same pieces over on websites like Shein, fast fashion websites, and it was just kind of like, Sheree, like, even if you're not gonna make the clothes yourself, the very least you could do is make sure that the clothes that you put out on this site of yours, make it unique, you know what I mean? Like bare minimum. But it came out connected to that as well, that she didn't pay someone that had done pieces for her. That was another issue. I don't know what's going on with Sheree when it comes to not paying people. Remember that Drew had basically said like, okay, I'm gonna need you to pay half, and they agreed to pay half when it came to Kenya's, I think it was Kenya, her birthday party? I don't remember. Either way, it was someone's party, and I think Drew was hosting it at her house, but in terms of decorations, food, and all that stuff, Drew and Sheree had came to the agreement that they were just gonna do like halvesies when it came to the bill. But Sheree was like, nah, you decide to do all of this. Like, I didn't say you could do all of this and then make me pay half. And it was like, Sheree, like, come on, man. You boast constantly about this Chateau Sheree and you live in this fabulous life, but then at the same time, you can't just pay your bills. In some ways, I thought it was a joke. But then when you have people constantly saying the same thing over and over again, that you're not paying your bills, some of it has to be true, like a fraction. Maybe not all of it, but some of it has to be true. And I'm gonna need you to get it together and start paying your dang bills, okay? Let me go take these twists out and I'll be right back. So I am back and better than ever. Anyways, y'all, that is it for this video, you guys. Hopefully you liked my little rant slash review. I was going back and forth between all the different episodes. There wasn't no chronological order that I presented because I was just doing it based on who I remembered and what I remembered from each person, what happened during the season, yada yada. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Let me know if there was anything in particular that you wanted to bring up and talk about down in the comments about the season. But yeah, that was rather interesting. But hopefully y'all enjoyed it. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.